Today in the interview we have the assistant of the first Vice President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Elchin Amirbayev. Welcome.
Good morning.
So Mr. Elchin, you act as a special envoy from the presidential administration. What is the purpose of your visit to North Macedonia?
Well, there are two purposes. First of all, of course, it is to go through our bilateral relations with the Macedonian authorities, because as you know, in 2 years' time we will celebrate 30 years since the establishment of diplomatic relations, so it's a good time to take stock of what we have achieved and what we can do better. And the second reason is to brief our Macedonian colleagues on the current situation in terms of regional security in the region that I represent, South Caucasus. More concretely about the ongoing peace process between Azerbaijan and Armenia, taking into account that North Macedonia is this year exercising the role of chairman in office of the OSCE, to which Azerbaijan is also a member state. So these are two main issues to raise.
As you mentioned, on 28th of this month we celebrate 28 years of diplomatic relations. In your opinion, where are we now and how we can advance?
Well, I should tell that in terms of political dialogue we have very good relations. You know, leaders and ministers, you know, they see each other on a regular basis, especially foreign ministers recently met several times. Your foreign minister traveled to Azerbaijan in April of this year. It's true that he did it in his capacity as chairman in office of OSCE, but he also could exchange with Azerbaijani counterparts on the bilateral issues. So we believe that the potential for economic cooperation between our two countries is still very much untapped. So we have a good potential, we have lots of opportunities, so that's why I believe that you know, we should have more contacts between not only officials but also the business circles. So different sorts of business fora, different delegations of line ministries could be interesting. Unfortunately, we don't have yet Intergovernmental Economic Commission, which is normally a mechanism which on a regular basis looks into bilateral economic relations and trade relations. That's why the trade turnover figures are quite modest. They're almost non-existent. So that's why I think that is the area where we have to concentrate more.
I do some research. According to the Macedonian State Statistic Office, the good exchange with Azerbaijan the last year was slightly above €500,000 of export and 150,000 euros of import. So according to you, what are the potential areas for better economic activities between our two countries?
Well, Azerbaijan is known traditionally as an energy supplying country, so we are one of the main strategic partners of the European Union in terms of contributing to energy security of EU. We know that North Macedonia is a candidate country. You started, I think, last year your accession talks, and lots of countries in Southeastern Europe you know, are in touch with Azerbaijan now in order to agree on some deliveries of natural gas. But energy is only one field. I think that what we need to do is to concentrate what are the main export you know, goods that each country can propose to each other. We should have, I think, a regular channel of communication in terms of business and trade opportunities. That's why I believe that a lot of work is still ahead, and Azerbaijan has recently accredited a new ambassador to North Macedonia. Our ambassador in Serbia is now also ambassador in Skopje. Unfortunately, we don't yet have any representative from North Macedonia who is accredited today in Azerbaijan, but I think that the contacts that we already had recently, they can provide us with an opportunity to fill in these gaps. And I think one of the main reasons of these low figures is lack of knowledge about each other's, you know, economic opportunities. So I look forward to seeing quite different picture very soon.
Any local or regional project that could be
Well, as I
Led
said, you know, Azerbaijan has successfully completed at the end of 2020 the huge project which is called Southern Gas Corridor, which basically transmits the natural gas resources of Azerbaijan from our sector of the Caspian Sea through 6 countries to Italy and also to a number of other nations. So soon the number of countries recipients of natural gas from Azerbaijan will reach 10. So I think that there is certain interest which was expressed by North Macedonia also to import some of Azerbaijani natural gas. So this is the low-hanging fruit, as they say. But besides that, I think that Azerbaijan could be an attractive market also for some of the Macedonian goods and the vice versa.
Well, when we are the Azerbaijani gas topic, the Azerbaijan, the land of fire, that's your country motto. So, but unfortunately, the Azerbaijani gas through the TAP and TANAP gas pipelines is available in the neighborhood, but not in North Macedonia. As you mentioned, in 2018, I suppose, or 2019, there was some announcement that we will try to connect with interconnector in Alexandroupolis, neighboring Greece. But when we will have the Azerbaijani gas in Macedonia?
Well, I don't think that the question should be posed to Azerbaijan, because as a supplier of gas, we would be happy to deliver natural gas also to North Macedonia. But the question sometimes the problem is in the lack of necessary transmission capacity or the distribution networks. So basically the infrastructure itself is lacking. It was also the case with your neighbor Albania. So the construction of distribution networks, which would not only allow you to receive our gas, but also to deliver it to households, that is normally the responsibility of the receiving state. So I think that this could be also a subject of North Macedonia's discussions with the European Union, because EU is very much supporting the Southern Gas Corridor. But on our side, we are open and ready to include North Macedonia into the list of recipient countries.
Hypothetically, we are now paying the priciest gas in the region. So if we have the Azerbaijani gas, how will it affect the prices?
Well, normally, the more you have sources of gas, the more competitive are prices and the lower they are for those who are consumers. So I think that it's a market law, and if you will have additional source of gas, of course, that may positively affect the prices for your consumers.
Mr. Velicin, you've served as a in the permanent mission of Azerbaijan to the United Nations. Our countries are also part of the European political community that have a second meeting last month in Chisinau, Moldova. In your opinion, what is the potential of this initiative?
Well, actually, as you know, this initiative was launched relatively recently by France, and ever since we had only 2 summit meetings. As any new initiative, I think it needs some time so that it settles down and people really understand what comparative advantage this platform can provide to member states in comparison with all the rest of the organizations and platforms that already exist. But from what I can tell, from my personal point of view, it was a good gathering of leaders. More than 45 nations were represented. The strictly informal nature of discussions and exchanges, I think, added some more value to the quality of these discussions, but this is still, in a way, is a good kind of opportunity for leaders to see each other on a regular basis. I understand that meetings will take place twice a year. For them to take up all the issues that they consider of pertinence to current situation in international relations. And that's why, I mean, we don't see, we don't see any concrete, results now. But already the fact that this gathering may be used for by nations, to have discussions on many other issues, which in a smaller groups, that's also a good opportunity.
Well, efforts for reaching a peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia is over Nagorno-Karabakh are intensifying. So there are some, from the Armenian side, there was announced that there's a possibility by the end of this year to have some sustainable solution to the problem. In your opinion, is there a possibility to?
Well, before responding to this question, I think one has to understand that real opportunities or chances for peace, they emerged after the end of the Second Karabakh War, when Azerbaijan, during 44 days, was able to liberate territories which have been under illegal Armenian occupation for almost 30 years. So after having restored historical justice and its territorial integrity, Azerbaijan has proposed to Armenia a post-conflict peace agenda. And that's why we put on the table the draft peace treaty, which could help us turn this page of hostility and to try to normalize our relations. And this treaty is based on reciprocal respect of each other's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and inviolability of internationally recognized borders, and rejection of any territorial claims to each other now and in the future. So we do believe that if Armenia proves by real acts, not only by declarations, that they are ready for peace, that they abandon territorial claims to Azerbaijan, if we can see genuine proofs for that on the ground, then of course we have a big chance to have this peace. It's difficult for me to give any timelines because sometimes when they are not met, that creates some frustration. But we have to see how genuine Armenian side is, because on the one hand, Prime Minister of Armenia speaks about his respect to territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. On the other side, we still have about 10,000 of regular units of Armenian armed forces in the sovereign territory of Azerbaijan, in Karabakh region. You mentioned Nagorno-Karabakh. It used to be the case because it was a creature of Stalin at the time. Nagorno means in English mountainous, because there were two parts of historic Azerbaijani province of Karabakh, the lowlands and highlands. So today we have a new territorial administrative division of our territory. I will leave you this map with you. So you see one single Karabakh economic region, which unites both mountainous and lowland part of Karabakh. So, and this region is going to be multi-ethnic, because when we will have the big return of all the hundreds of thousands of internally displaced persons of Azerbaijani origin who have been subjected to ethnic cleansing by Armenia, we will have a region which will have several 100,000 population. And hopefully Armenians also will be part of this. So that's what we actually propose to local Armenians, to engage with central authorities of Azerbaijan in discussions, in negotiations, in order to agree on the conditions of their reintegration into the social, economic, humanitarian and political framework of Azerbaijani state in accordance with our constitution. But going back to the peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan, because this issue is internal issue of Azerbaijan, our discussions with our local Armenian citizens. But the peace negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan, they have intensified recently. Since early May, we had several rounds of discussions at the level of foreign ministers, at the level of leaders, and we hope that soon we will continue these discussions. The peace treaty is within reach, but as they say, it takes two to tango, so we expect Armenia also to behave responsibly and to deliver on the promises that they make, and that they would implement all the commitments that they have undertaken, including withdrawal of all of their armed forces from the sovereign territory of Azerbaijan, because you cannot talk about peace and at the same time keep this illegal military presence in our territory, which is a direct threat to security and stability and any prospects for peace. So we want this problem to be addressed so that we can concentrate on peace negotiations in a much better environment.
As you mentioned, 2020, I suppose it's a war, it was the war. And after that, the negotiations were, and the treaty, peace treaty, was held by Moscow, I think it was under the Moscow.
Well, the ceasefire agreement was signed with participation of Russia.
Yes, and now, since the Ukrainian war, we have a shift to in Brussels next month there will be a meeting. So, do you talk for some other points? Because as I do some research, there were some claims about political, civil rights and stuff like that to be part of this.
Well, I think I need to bring more clarity because it's a very complex issue. We shouldn't miss the different subjects. Well, if we talk about Armenia-Azerbaijan negotiations, of course they are held in different places and we have different facilitators. So Russia is one of those because they are one of the signatory parties to the ceasefire agreement, and they also host regularly meetings. Like recently in May, Moscow hosted foreign ministers and leaders meeting. Then they have Brussels, which is a trilateral facilitation process, which is held by President of European Council, Charles Michel, with President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan and Prime Minister Pashinyan of Armenia. Then you also have Washington, the United States, which tries to bring more energy into this process. And by the way, the Americans were the ones who restored this negotiation process after a long pause, which was the result of the obstruction by Armenia, which wanted to escape negotiations with Azerbaijan. But finally they understood that there is no other way to achieve sustainable peace than to talk to Azerbaijan. So now we have, it doesn't matter what is the name of the city where we talk, because at the end of the day, it is a bilateral Armenia-Azerbaijan negotiation in order to agree on the text of the peace agreement. And this text of the peace agreement, it will enumerate the major principles upon which the relations between two nations will be based. It will also allow to open the transportation links which were blocked. And also it will allow us to delimitate the border, which has not been yet delimited up until now. So these are the three major clusters on which we talk with Armenia. What you mentioned about the rights, it concerns, I hope that you meant that it is about the rights of national minorities. So we talk about Armenian national minority in Azerbaijan, and currently they live in Karabakh region. But we also should not forget about the Azerbaijani ethnic minority in Armenia. Just to tell you, before the start of this conflict, Armenia hosted 250,000 of ethnic Azerbaijanis, but unfortunately all of these people were subjected to ethnic cleansing and they were ousted of their lands, so they were expelled from this territory. And today when we talk about long-term peace and when we talk about the rights of minorities, we also raise the issue of rights of hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis who have the right to go back to their historic homeland. So we are discussing this, the rights of Armenians in Karabakh region. It is a dialogue between central authorities of Azerbaijan and local Armenians. So Armenia is out of this picture. So I think that on this front also Azerbaijan is ready to engage with its citizens of ethnic Armenian origin. But we expect them to be constructive. We expect them to understand that it is about providing them with all the opportunities to enjoy their social, economic and other rights, but within the framework of Azerbaijani state, because it should be done in line with Azerbaijani constitution.
So my last question, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of North Macedonia and current chairman of the OSCE, Bujar Osmani, mention of possibility for having a peace negotiation between your two countries held in Ohrid. Is there any concrete proposal or invitation?
Well, I haven't heard about any proposal from North Macedonia to host negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. What I heard was the proposal by your foreign minister to host a meeting where all three nations of South Caucasus, Armenia, Azerbaijan and Georgia, could participate. And the idea is to think about the ways on how to explore the opportunities for regional cooperation, for normalization of relations between the three. Because Azerbaijan, right after the end of the Second Karabakh War, also was at the origin of a proposal of a regional cooperation framework which was called 3+3. So 3 nations of South Caucasus and 3 immediate neighbors, which are Turkey, Russia and Iran. So that proposal of Azerbaijan was, positively actually accepted by countries in the region. But it is another issue also to make sure that South Caucasus finally becomes a single political region, because now it's a purely geographical region. And the reason why it did not evolve as one political region because of the occupation by Armenia of Azerbaijani territories. Now that it is over, I think that we have a good chance to explore opportunities for more robust economic and other regional cooperation between 3 nations. So I think it is about this, but again, I'm not aware of all the details.
Mr. Elchin, thank you for your time. I hope you will reach peace soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.